Hello, welcome back to the channel. Another World of Darkness Wednesday. So this is V5, looking at the Crimson Gutter source book. And what this is a chronicle book that helps tell a story. It's almost like a really good storyteller's guide. And by that I mean it sets a story, it sets scenes, it sets characters, it sets feeding complications based on predator type. It gives you some sample locations. It's a real good resource to maybe jump into on the fly while you're playing a game or to get some inspirations for running a game. For me, the three books I'm going to go to on my tabletops at the moment when I'm running games is the core book, obviously, Crimson Gutter, and the Player's Guide. Interesting point to note, and I mentioned this in another video. When I first saw this, I thought it was called The Crimson Cutter, and it was a chronicle about hunting down a vampire serial killer. I've been quite inspired to write that, so maybe I'll share some thoughts on that in another beer. Table of contents. So I'm going to go through the book. I'm going to talk about some bits of the book. I'm going to keep it spoiler free, so my players don't see everything I've got planned. We'll give you an idea of what you're going to get, and actually, you decide if it's for you. Headline, they won't save it to the end. If you are new to storytelling, I think this is a really good guide, pretty essential. If you are a storyteller like me, wanting some kind of fresh ideas, also good. You know what? If you're deep into your own campaign, it might not, and you're already really comfortable with what you're doing, it might not be as useful. But as we see here, we've got sort of coterie and character creation. Chapter one, waking up the gutter. Chapter two, first steps, is a mini campaign. It's not so mini, and my players are kind of working through that, and I intend to thread that through some other events in the city. I'm running a campaign set in Glasgow. It's never sunny in Govan. Chapter three is one shots you can run with an anarch feel. Chapter 4 is one shots you can feel with the Camarilla feel, the aristocracy of the night. Chapter 5 is the Church of Cain one shots you can run. And then you got a couple of appendixes. The first one is feeding complications. So taking different predator types. And when things go wrong, what could go wrong? I think feeding is an integral part of being a vampire. Now, I don't overly dwell on feeding scenes every game, but I do spend some time and like to put some detail into feeding. Appendix 2 is plug and play scenes. So this is if you wanted a warehouse off the shelf or Elysium or a nightclub off the shelf. It helps you generate this. And finally, future stories where you can take your story to next. Shout out to the art in this. I really like the inclusion of coloured out pieces in V5. Very evocative. There's lots of nice full page art throughout this, and this is just a taste of it. This here is a quote at the start, an in character quote. Sidney Abel is one of the characters you can meet during the game, and it sums up what you're going to get from this book. So I think he's independent, but he's going to talk about the Camarilla, and you know what? Great if you can stomach the condescension, they pay the bet they pay the debts. The anarchs are opposite. The talk of good game but unreliable. And the Church of Cain sometimes go for it. So it sets up the three main bodies. Now, I really like the tensions between the Camarilla and anarchs and them being their own sect rather than the anarchs in V5 being part of the Camarilla. The two sects are kind of separate, but it's more of a cold war than a hot war. And the Church of Cain being able to bridge that and add that spirituality that the Sabbat added. So the character creation bit really interesting. If you're going to run the story out of this, gives you some options for character sires based on their clan, and allows you to thread your players as fledglings into the game. Now it's got the core clans and it's got the expanded clan series sires if you're using the expanded clan sires. So, for example, one of my players decided they wanted to be La Sombra, so we've pulled in La Sombra. At the start, I've got three players and they're going to form the basis of the coterie, and other players will drop in and drop out. And we've got a La Sombra, a Malkavian, and a Gangrel. With this as well, if your players need a bit of help thinking about the embrace and what they understand about vampirism so far, you've got a couple of charts, D10s, give you an idea, something to build your character on. Now, every character mentioned in the campaign has a sheet like this, gives you their stats, bit of background, appearance, in play, and actually, if they're the sire, some information that you could share with the players. And here's an example of the Zamitsi, who, if just use the core clans, he's Ventru. If you're using expanded clans, he's Zamitsi. So you can see how they've got their extra discipline breakdown. Now, this is going into the Chronicle, but take this time to talk a bit about how I've adapted one of the scenes from this to my own chronicle. So Pink Slips Bar, really interesting bar in the city. So Crimson Gutter is based around the idea of American cities. So I really like the idea of Pink Slips Bar. So pretty much when you're uh, made unemployed in America, pink slips, you go into the bar, pin the pink slip to the wall. So set in Govan, well, if you don't know about Govan in Glasgow, it's where the shipyards were. So what I've created is a place called the Govan Community Complex, and it's part bar, part community space, part hall, meeting rooms. It's a big building that's been added to over the years. And in Britain, pink slip, I think, would be called a P45. So the bar, part of the complex, Barcombe nightclub, is the old Union Hall, and it's become a pub affectionately known as P45. And the idea was when you were laid off from the shipyards, you went in, put down your P45, and you got a pint and a shot. So that's how I've adapted that idea to my Glasgow setting. So, chapter two, your first steps. This is a series of, I think it's about six different kind of scenes and sections which tell the story of your characters establishing and dealing with something. Like I say, I'm not going to delve into what that is in case my players are reading it, listening to this at the moment. But this is an example of the type you get. Bring on the Night, part one, feeding gone awry. Kind of warning you about the sort of interactions you're going to have, social, physical, etc. The next part is the one shot. So this is the Anarchs, the free and the bold. And what these are, a series of one shots. So, for example, if you're going to go on a joyride with the Anarchs, I'm just going to talk you through the details, the background to that, tests you can make, how you can structure it, how you can run it. And there it says it's going to be social with a lot of physical. You get the same with the Camarilla, and I think there's about 5 or 6 of those one shots for each of the different organizations. So if you're running the Crimson Gutter storyline, you're going to have to interact with Camarilla and Anarchs. They're kind of in the city. So actually having a few Anarch scenes, a few Camarilla scenes on the side, sort of exploring what it means to be members of those sects adds a lot. If you were just running ideas for a Camarilla game, obviously you just take the Camarilla one, or maybe adapt the Anarchs. So yeah, this is Camarilla one, the aristocracy of the night. And again, the sort of thing you might be doing taken over an elder's domain. Good luck to you. Mental and social, why the place got, etc. It gives you reasons for your characters to be involved. And it mentions NPCs there. But if you're running that for your own city, obviously you can look at the NPCs and think, well, actually, which NPCs suit that role best? And some of that lovely art. And the Church of Cain. And again, attending the Church of Cain service, details about why you're chosen, why you're going along, what you're going to get out of it. And there's a really good supplement, forget the name of it just now, which is all about sort of religion and the cults, blood cults. I think it's blood cult, which covers a lot of Church of Cain stuff. This gives you enough to run it without having to delve through all of that. And there you go. What a flow chart, what that sort of one would be with some options and where it goes. And so you can plan your pacing as a storyteller. I think pacing as a storyteller is really interesting. I'm going to talk about this in another video as I'm trying to run my games for Vampire as one shots because I'm running a charity social enterprise now based around sort of storytelling rather than role playing, but storytelling. So, yeah, really getting the grips of pacing and thinking about pacing. Now, the appendices. Number one, feeding complications when feeding goes wrong. So it's got predator types, and it's got sort of targets what could go wrong, source, got more details, different options, tests you can make, and as a storyteller, you've probably got a lot of stuff in your head when you come to the table. You're thinking about plot arcs, plot lines, details of different characters, and sometimes when something like feeding goes wrong, happens on the spur, it's nice to just be able to have something else do your thinking for you and be able to jump into something like this rather than have to pause your thoughts and come up with something new. And actually, you know what? It's the things that go wrong and the lines and angles that goes off that makes games really interesting. But yeah, just having something like this you can hook on. And in the same vein, maybe your players decide to go somewhere unexpected. Maybe it's a scene or a location you've not planned out yet. And this is where Appendix 2 comes in, plug and play scenes. So if they want to go to a read abandoned warehouse off the rack, art gallery, nightclub, that sort of stuff. You've got the bare bones of descriptions. There's some other storytelling tools that can help with that, and I'll probably going to do that in another video. So yeah, watch out for that. And finally, future stories, Appendix 3, kind of taking some of the themes and plot lines from Crimson Gutter so you can expand it. And honestly, anything that starts off with the Pygmalion storyline, I was I was forced to do one of the set texts I did in university. So I really enjoy the idea of a Pygmalion storyline. But anyway, Crimson Gutter, like I said at the start, great for new storytellers wanting to understand how to create a chronicle. Chicago by Night also does a lot of this, but that's already much more set. This, I think, helps you start thinking about your city, how things interact, how you can create a plot, how different NPCs can interact with each other. Obviously, to give you some tools for one-off scenes there, really nice to run. So also giving you some, like say, predator types, locations that you can plug in and play as needed. Again, for an extended storyteller, I could have come up with all of this myself. It would have taken a bit of time. I'm quite a busy person at the moment, so I really appreciated having that key story. And I've thrown in my NPCs. First things my players did was meet two NPCs, so a shadow NPC and an NPC I use a lot called Jimmy Riddle, um, who's a caitiff who considers himself king of the streets, and everybody just says he's king of piss. He's the sort of guy who's over enthusiastic, over promises, but always under delivers. But anyway, that's me gushing about my NPC that I use quite a bit. But yeah, so I've been able to throw in my NPCs as well and work them through the storyline. Honestly, if you're interested in V5 as a running V5 games, this book is great. Right, say if I'm going to take roleplay books are heavy, and I'm going to be going to a venue, so the three books I'm always going to take is going to be the core book, copy of Crimson Gutter, and the Player's Guide. And I'm going to talk about the Player's Guide in another video very soon. So if you're interested in finding out more about V5, and I'm pretty much going to cover all the V5 books, drop us a like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Don't do this for likes and subscribe. I do these videos because I just love talking about my hobbies. Anyway, may the night be good for you and your hunt. I look forward to talking to you in another video. Thanks for listening.